So today I'm doing something a little different. I thought about doing this list for a couple of months now. I'm finally taking the jump to do it. And recently I've been hearing a lot of people, including one of my guests, Ashley, talk about how men's fragrances can go unisex, like women love to wear them, including Ashley herself. She likes to wear a lot of these fragrances, or a lot of the fragrances I'm going to feature here. So are these fragrances more unisex, even though they're targeted to men? Well, if you want to find out what they are, I'm going to rank these fragrances in the top 20 list from the most unisex to the most masculine. 20 fragrances that I've spoken about a lot or have reviewed on this channel. So if you're curious to find out what they are, please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. If this is your first time on this channel and you love watching fragrance reviews, finding out about fragrances, discovering new brands, and participating in giveaways and still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. 20 of my favorite fragrances that are from designers, ranked from the most unisex to the most masculine. I'm going to jump right to this and start with number 20 and go into the house of GUERLAIN. This is L'Homme Idéal EDP, or the Parfum, which I find to be very, very unisex, if not maybe a bit on the feminine side. I love it, don't get me wrong. It's nutty, it's cherry, it's liqueur, it's delicious. I mean, I think a woman totally would love to wear this one because it's just all very gooey gourmandy, if that makes sense. Sadly, I hear it's discontinued, but hopefully it's not. But I just find it to be very, very cherry liqueur-like with like almonds and tonka beans. And those are the kind of notes that tend to go unisex to me. So I rank this at number 20 as the most unisex out of all of these 20 fragrances I'm going to talk to you about. So this is L'Homme Idéal EDP, or Eau de Parfum, from GUERLAIN. At number 19, going to the house of Gucci. We've got two Gucci scents here. This one I haven't spoken much about, but it is one of my favorite Guccis. This is Gucci Pour Homme 2, this one right here. Now this one is very unisex to me because it's very tea-like. Like, it's very cozy and comfy. Just a sweet, plain, not plain, I shouldn't use the word plain, but like nothing like intense, like it doesn't jump out at you, and it is very, very simple to wear for both men and women. In fact, I think, or I find tea scents to be a bit more on the feminine side more than masculine side, especially this one. Now I do have another fragrance of theirs, Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme, which I find to be ultra masculine, but wait until you see where that lands. But this one, I find it to be very, very unisex. So Gucci Pour Homme 2 is number 19. Now going to the house of Tom Ford, they launched the third flanker in a series of fragrances called Tom Ford Noir. This is Noir Extreme. Now I find this to be very, very unisex. Not necessarily feminine leaning, but very, very unisex because it has very delicious gourmandy elements or accords to it, or notes to it. Now it's so funny because I find it to be very unisex because they even have a Parfum edition of this, which is a bit more floral than this, but mostly smells the same. So there you have it. That explains why I find this one to be very, very unisex as a masculine release for men. Now guys, as I'm talking about these fragrances, let me know if you are fans of these fragrances, or do you find them to be more unisex than masculine? There aren't a lot of masculine fragrances out these days personally, whereas when I grew up in the 80s and the late 70s, when I started smelling and noticing fragrances, up until the mid 90s, fragrances went ultra masculine. Like especially in the 80s, the powerhouses, you know, Kouros and things like that, those went ultra masculine, and I wouldn't find women wear them, even though there's probably women wearing things like that. But today, fragrances are very, very unisex to me, especially the ones for men, I think. And this is one of them. So this is Tom Ford Noir Extreme at number 17. I'm sorry, that's at number 18. So at number 17, we are going to the house of Mugler, and this is Pure Havane. Now this I find to be very, very unisex. I know a lot of women wear this one, and I don't find it to be a very, very masculine fragrance. It's got tobacco in it, and tobacco tends to go masculine, but everything around this tobacco is more unisex. I find the honey note and the cherry-like style in there just gives it a very, very unisex, gooey, delicious gourmand offering. It's not a bad thing because I love this one, but I do find it to be more unisex than a very, very masculine fragrance. Do you agree with that one? Let me know. But this is Mugler Pure Havane, and this is at number 17. Now the next one is a boozy fragrance, not from the house of Mugler, but this one is from the house of Bentley for Men Intense, this one right here. It's a very, very niche style offering from a designer, but I find it to be very unisex. Now I find this to be unisex because it has a very niche styling to it, and it's inspired or influenced by two fragrances, at least they smell like them to me, Olfactive Studios Chambre Noir and Luban Zidol, both of which are unisex targeted fragrance. This is Bentley for Men Intense. I just find it to be very, very unisex rather than like a very masculine offering. So I love it, don't get me wrong, I love wearing it because I love gourmandy, boozy fragrances, but this one I think is pretty unisex. So check that one out, it's Bentley for Men Intense at number 16. At number 15, we're going to the house of Mugler again, and this is Pure Malt, another boozy fragrance, but I find this one to be a bit more masculine than Pure Havane, and also Bentley for Men Intense. This one, there's something about it that goes a little more masculine. Even though it's a gourmand, it's boozy, it's a barley, it's a whiskey, things like that. I just find it a bit more masculine than the previous fragrances, but still very, very unisex, I think, because boozy, gourmand, all those things are, to me, very, very unisex fragrance stylings. So this is Pure Malt at number 15. Next up, we're going to the house of Carolina Herrera, and this is CHMM PRIVE, this one right here. Now this one is another boozy fragrance, of course, but we've got that sugar leather note here with an added whiskey note. The leather kind of goes in the direction of more masculine, but the leather doesn't really develop too much. It is a bit leathery for sure, but to me it's more sugar and whiskey, if that makes sense. The leather is in the background. Even though it's supposedly like a ultra leathery fragrance, it just never develops. So because of that, even though I think leather can be unisex, everything around the leather note, I think personally to me screams unisex. So I'm giving it a more unisex compared to some of the other ones that are coming up. So this is CHMM PRIVE from Carolina Herrera. Now this next one, we're going to the house of Valentino, and this is UOMO Intense, this one right here. Now this is a more intense version of the original, which actually has hazelnuts and kind of gourmandy notes, but still I find it to be very, very appropriate from both men and women. And if you're a man and you have this and you have a wife or girlfriend, they can totally pull this one off as well, like any of the ones previous. A lot of these fragrances can be very, very unisex to me. I mean, actually there's really no gender with fragrances anyway, but the reason I wanted to do this video is because fragrances of today are nothing like the fragrances of the 80s and the 70s, even up until the mid-90s, where fragrances were very, very masculine. As I said, Cool Rose, AZZARO Pour Homme, Givenchy Gentleman, all of those fragrances were very very masculine. So nothing like what they have released these days, but this one is definitely more on the unisex side. This is Valentino UOMO Intense. Next, we're going to the house of Givenchy, speaking of Givenchy, and this is Gentleman Givenchy EDP. Now we're going into more masculine territory. We got more iris here. It's very carroty, like we've figured recently in videos, but it's also very, very sexy. It's got very leathery touches, but I can see why this might not be as unisex as the previous ones, because it is starting to get a little more masculine and a little bit more butch, but this one's ultra sexy. I mean, a woman can totally pull this one off, but I think they should be able to pull off the previous releases much more than this one, if that makes sense. So this is Gentleman Givenchy by Givenchy, the EDP version, which is absolutely fabulous. So this next one is going to the house of Prada, and this is Prada L'Homme. Now we're starting to get into the iris more. The next couple of them are iris dominant, and iris is a very, very unisex note to me, but here we're starting to get like the aromatic qualities or aromatic stylings of fragrances, as we had discussed in previous videos, and this one can go a little more masculine than the others. It does have a very powdery styling to it, but it also has a very aromatic, almost bordering fougere like quality to the release. So that's why I find it to be a little more masculine than the previous offering. So this is Prada L'Homme, and that's at number 11. My favorite designer fragrance of all time, and this is Dior Homme Parfum. Now, this is a very masculine offering, but everything around the masculinity is very feminine to me because it's all irisy, it's all very lipsticky. The leather is what makes it a very, very masculine fragrance, but everything else around it is just ultra, ultra sexy and very, very unisex leaning, but absolutely fabulous. Like if you have this fragrance and you wanted to wear it with your wife, your girlfriend, or whatever, they would, I think they could wear it, but it is definitely more on the masculine side compared to what we previously experienced, at least to me. Now this list can be completely different to you. Going to the House of Dunhill, and this is Dunhill Icon, this one right here. Now this kind of fragrance, even though I find citruses to be a very unisex, here it's got this like woody, vetiver vibe to it that makes it, or gives it, a more masculine edge to it. And don't get me wrong, I think confident women could pull all of these fragrances off, even the more masculine ones as we get to them. But this one to me, even though it's a citrus dominant fragrance, still a very, very masculine offering. So this is Dunhill Icon, a great, great release, one of the best designers. That's why I wanted to include it in this video, and as I have reviewed it also as well. It is Bleu de Chanel. I included Parfum here, the Parfum edition, even though the EDP and the EDT are fine to include here. But even though I find freshies, and this is sort of like a woody freshie, a more you know, unisex leaning, I find a Bleu series of fragrances to be very masculine. A woman can pull it off, don't get me wrong, but to me, even though it's like on the freshy edge of fragrances, I find it to be very masculine. So that's why it's up there on the list, and I'm going to put it here because kind of like, sort of like the Aventises and Bleu de Chanel, all those fragrances are kind of similar. Even fragrances like Armani Acqua di Gio I find to be more on the masculine side. So this one's definitely unisex, but more on the masculine side to me. So that's Bleu de Chanel. And speaking of Armani Acqua di Gio, here we have Acqua di Gio Profumo, my favorite edition out of all of them. And this one to me is more on the masculine side, at least to me. Now I find the original, the Eau de Toilette, to be a little more unisex leaning than this one, even though it's aquatic and it's got those aquatic touches. But here we have a little more masculine edge thrown in with the incense and patchouli, which gives it a more masculine edge to it. That's why I find this to be more masculine compared to what we experienced earlier on the list. So this is Armani Acqua di Gio Profumo. Next up, we're going to the House of Dolce & Gabbana, a fragrance I haven't talked about a lot, but I'm bringing it up because I have a review on the channel. And even though I find sweet, it's got very masculine touches to it, and that's D&G The One EDP. This one, it's masculine. It doesn't have any feminine. Well, I guess it has some sweetness or sweet touches to it, but to me it goes more in the masculine side compared to the feminine side. I mean, I can totally see a woman pulling this one off, but I wouldn't put it next to something like Guerlain's L'Homme Ideal. I find it even to be more masculine than, let's say, for example, Dior Homme Parfum. So this is Dolce & Gabbana The One, and that is also very masculine. We're going to the House of Dior again, and this is Eau Sauvage Parfum. This one right here, it's 2017 edition. I find this to be very, very masculine, especially because it's vetiver with resins and of course citruses. I mean, women can totally pull this one off, but now we're getting into very masculine territory, and fragrances tend to get very, very masculine on this side. Some women couldn't pull these off because they would find it to be on the more masculine side. We've got more masculine styles of notes here. That's why I think some women would be turned off. But more confident women that are interested in, you know, all styles of fragrances, I think can totally pull it off. So that's Eau Sauvage Parfum 2017 edition. Cartier Declaration Parfum. This one I had reviewed, of course. Now this one, it's very masculine. A lot of the notes are very masculine. It's masculine targeted, it's spicy, it's aromatic, it's leathery, but really, really beautiful and sexy, classy fragrance. Now, I think, like I said, now we're getting to more masculine fragrances, and these are ones that women might have a challenging time to wear, especially if they're used to like floral fragrances and more gourmands, but the confident ones would totally be able to do it. And I find this one to be one of the more masculine out of all of these fragrances that I've discussed today. So that's Cartier Declaration Parfum, this one right here. That is at number 4. At number 3, we're going to the the house of LALIQUE, and this is Encre Noir à l'Extrême. Now this one I had to include in here because it's one of my favorite designer fragrances, and this edition is my favorite out of the 3 that I like, and I find it to be very, very masculine because, you know, it's vetiver here. We've got lots of vetiver here, and vetiver tends to generally go more masculine. Just in general, to me, it's very woody. It's a dark, kind of herbaceous, woody, earthy note, and I find it to be very, very masculine. Again, confident women could pull this one off, but I think they would find it easier to pull off the GUERLAIN L'Homme Idéal or any of the boozy ones, even Pure Havana and things like that. If they like that style, it would be a lot easier for them to pull it off versus something like this. So this is Encre Noir à l'Extrême by LALIQUE at number 3. Now this one is Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme, this one right here. Very masculine. I think this is one of the most masculine fragrances that was recently released. I don't know if it really did very well. Another masculine fragrance that was released was also Noir Anthracite. This one's more masculine to me, but I had to put it at number 2 because it's ultra masculine. The next one is a more older fragrance, which I find to be even more masculine. But this one, I can see some women pulling it off, but less and less than the previous ones because the notes are very, very intense. Animalic, earthy, vetiver and woody, vetiver of course, and then you've got that animalic and musky leather in here. It's a great release. Absolutely love it, but I'm not sure it really did very well for the house. If you like animalic, leathery designer fragrances, woody fragrances, check it out. Very, very masculine for a designer. Last but not least, this is an oldie but a goodie, but I recently reviewed it. I had to include it on the list. It's AZZARO Pour Homme, the original, very masculine. And this is the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. These are the kind of fragrances that are not existent nowadays because they've gone very, very unisex. Like a lot of men's fragrances tend to be very unisex to me. But here we have a very, very ultra masculine release from the late 70s. All about fougere, aromatic, barbershop-y style of fragrance, but this one has a unique touch to it. It has anise, licorice in it, so it's got a green licoricey vibe, which I really, really love. But there you have it. That's my list. That's my number 1. AZZARO Pour Homme, very, very masculine compared to GUERLAIN's L'Homme Idéal. Don't you agree with me? But if you don't agree with me, let me know. Put some comments down. Let me know how you would have done the list. Let me know how your list would be. Put some comments down and let me know if there are any very, very masculine designer releases, not from the exclusive collections or the private blends and things like that, that I'm missing out, because I like to, even though I love my fragrances to be very, very unisex, and I wear lots of niche offerings which are unisex, and I find fragrances to be unisex even though they're targeted to men or women, but there are those fragrances that can go very, very masculine, like this from modern times. So if there are fragrances out there from designers that I'm missing and I don't know about, please do let me know, because I don't smell everything. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Please like it, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.